Hi, my name is Meng. This is the fifth section of the Webflow course. Today, we're going to learn how to use the tabs component to build a navigation that exists inside the page and that allows you to switch between different images. And this will show you just how much customization you can really put into a component. First of all, let's start from where we were in the last session. And we're going to go and select Hero and then press A to insert. Here, we're going to scroll down to the components and we're going to find the tabs component. If you do so, it's going to add a new element inside Hero. I'm just going to drag to reorder right after container. And here, this is what it's going to look like. This is a pretty common UI. In fact, Webflow uses it quite a bit for these tabs and for these tabs. In iOS, it's called the segmented controls, and you can find that in popular apps such as Maps and Twitter and even the camera app. So as long as you're not refreshing the page and it does not go to a completely different view, then this in-page menu is perfect. Granted, we're gonna use this in a very creative way because we're gonna reposition everything. The device, in our case, is going to change based on the menu, and we're also going to add a second menu. So we're going to duplicate this menu to show the different colors, material, and shadows of the device. Now, I think this exercise is great for showing you just how much customization you can put into a pre-made component like this one, where it has a bunch of functionalities. Right now, we have 3 menu items. And I want to show you that we can add an image. So press A and find the image we're going to choose, and then scroll down to find device, the white one for the iPhone 11 Pro. Now this is what you should have, and it's going to take the full width. That's because our element is not being contained within a specific width. Let's take a look at the layout that we're trying to build. So we have the device. That's a no-brainer. It's pretty easy. We just need to position that. But this menu is pretty tricky because it has the menu element itself, and it also has a container that is positioned differently in a different 3-dimensional plane. And if we look at our tabs, we can't really change the structure of our tabs. So I can't just add a new div inside the tab. It's going to say, you cannot add anything inside it. So I'm going to try to do that. It's red. It's just going to give me an error. So we're going to have this div which represents the blue element, the blue box, and I'm going to have to put that outside of the tabs component, which means that I'm going to need a new container that contains both these elements. So I'm going to click Hero, I'm going to press A and create a new div block. Just to show you, I have just created 2 div blocks, and then I have the tabs component. I'm going to move one div block into that new container and then the tabs as well. So now we have one parent div block, which I'm going to name tabs container, otherwise we're gonna get lost in the way that we name div blocks. And then I want to position this to absolute because I want this to be a floating element that's going to exist right here and can be on top of these elements. So we're gonna use position absolute. So selecting tabs container, we're gonna go to position and press absolute. Then I'm going to resize this container to a width of 540 and a height of 600. Now I just need to position it from the top. So if I don't have a position relative, it's just going to take the whole canvas. The top is going to be 208. And here's the deal, and this is a trick that I learned over the years, which is how do you center a container that is using position absolute? And there's one neat trick that I use is to put the left position to 50% and then use margin to center it. So I'm going to reposition it, because if you do 50%, then the left side of the container is going to be at the middle. If I want the container to be fully centered, so the middle portion of this container to be at the middle, I would have to take the width divided by 2. So 540 divided by 2, which is minus 270 pixel. So if I do this, then my container is always going to be centered regardless of the size of the canvas. But in this case, I want to have some offset. So instead of saying minus 270, I'm going to put minus 160. And voila, this is almost exactly like what I have in my design. Now let's deal with the tabs menu. Right now, it's not absolute, which means that it's going to stack up together. But I actually want it to float right here, so I'm going to have to use position absolute. So let's go to position and select absolute, then set the top position to 400 and left position to 80. You can see that the menu is below the phone itself, and this has to do with the three-dimensionality of your elements. So when you have floating elements, it needs to know, well, at what plane, and that plane is actually called Z-index. So if you're gonna put it, let's say 5, then this plane is higher than the default plane, which is the phone. What I can say is that some people come up with really crazy numbers like 1000 and stuff like that. You can get lost pretty easily. In my experience, I would never go above, let's say 10 or even 100. You can easily count the number of planes that you're gonna use in your layout, and the higher the number, the more you're gonna get lost over time. So try to be pretty aware of those numbers, because like if you put a million, for example, and someone else is trying to put some element on top of your million element and it's not working, well, they're scratching their head because their number is so huge and it's not doing anything. So that's why a small number is easier to override. Back to our layout, we're gonna set the display to flex so that we can spread it vertically. As you can see, that's the menu we actually want. And then we can start styling the tab link. So we're gonna select the first tab link, and then we're gonna set the font to 16. Now, as soon as you do that, it's going to create the class, but also there's a new one that's coming, and that's green. And that's interesting because it's gonna confuse you if you don't understand what's going on. First of all, because we're using the tabs, it has a current, so which means selected. So when you select this specific phone, then this class is coming in and it's slightly darker than the other two. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, notice that this is no longer blue, now it's orange, which means inherited. So it means that what you're applying right now is not to the first class, but to the second class, which is current. And let's say if I put 44, well, it's going to apply not to the original class, that's the first one, but it's going to only to apply to the current. And just to prove that to you, I'm going to name this class to tab link, and I set up 44 here, but when I start applying to the other two links, so I'm gonna type tab link, go to existing class tab link, you can see that it does not have that 44 height. And I'm gonna do the same for the third one. Going back to the first tab link, we have the second class, which is in green, and this is automatic. And that's how the combo classes work in Webflow. And it's very, very important to understand the structure of the way that the classes are working. Now remember that we have 44 here, when in fact we wanted to apply to all of these links. Well, we shouldn't apply that to current, and we should just go to the second one and then put 44 so that it can be applied to all three links, which means that we're going to deal with the selected state a little bit later. So let's finish the styling of all our main buttons first. Let's set the color to black. Then we're gonna scroll down, set the background color to transparent, and then set the border radius to 20. We're gonna have an outline this time. So instead of having a style to none, we're gonna set it to solid and set the width to 2. For the color, we actually want the color to be on the selected state, but we want the outline to be transparent when it's not selected. So we're gonna put this one to transparent by default first, and then when we're gonna style the current style, then it's going to have a color. So the reason why I'm applying these styles, which are kind of hidden and they're not showing at all, is because I'm preparing them for the selected state. So whatever I'm applying to the main style is going to be applied automatically to the selected state as well. And then when I'm going to go here, I'll just need to change the color and it's going to be applying. This is also great for animation. When you do a hover state, for example, you already prepared the main style, and then just on hover, you just need to change the color and it's going to have a perfect transition. So likewise, we're going to add a background icon. So we're going to choose the background and then select the phone one, so this one. Set the width to auto, and it's going to be from the left middle. Don't tile, and set the left to 30 pixel in terms of position. So let me get out of this and then go back up. Here I can see that my button has some extra padding, and this usually comes with buttons. I can decide to cancel this because I have a custom height, and because I'm using flex, it's already centered properly for me, so I don't need those padding. So I can just set to 0 for the padding and 0 for the bottom as well. I'm also going to make my width bigger, so 220, and then I'm going to center the text like this. For the selected state now, I'm gonna go to the first tab link and make sure that you see current, and now I can apply styles that are specific to the selected state. And here I'm gonna set a color for the border, so paste this code right here, and then for the font it's going to be 20 and the font weight set to bold. For the background, we're gonna set it to transparent as well. So what you're noticing here is that it's already set to transparent, and I'm not sure what's going on here. So my solution is just to put it to white first and put it to transparent again. And now it does apply the transparent. For the background, I actually just want to show the phone icon when it's selected. So we're gonna have to go back and then hide the icon by setting the top to -100%, like this. But what you're noticing is that when you change in the main style, it also applies in the current style, which is why it's always best to start with the main style first. So now I have to go back to the selected style and then put back the 50% in order to show it. Perfect. Now we can simply change the names to iPhone 11 Pro and then iPhone 11, Galaxy S10, and here we need a fourth item. So what we can do is select the third tab link, right click here in the title and click on duplicate. In that fourth item, I'm gonna put pixel 3. Now all that's left to do at this point is to style this div block that is going to serve as the floating blue box. So let's select this div block first and then set a width of 140 by 240. Then we're gonna need to position it so that it's right underneath the menu items. We're gonna put position absolute, and the top is going to be 380, and then the left is going to be 135. And now we can style it. Set the background color to blue using this color code with a border radius of 40. And then I'm gonna set a color drop shadow using the color of the box. Clicking box shadows, click on the plus sign, set the angle 180, distance 30, blur 30, and then the color is going to be the same color as the actual box using an opacity of 25%. Now this drop shadow right here is contextual. It takes the color of the card itself. It's kind of trying to mimic reality, in which if you have a card that is very vibrant and you put that on a white table, then some of that color is going to show off on the table. You've probably seen this technique a lot in the Apple Music app or on Dribbble a ton, but it's it's definitely one more technique that you can use in your arsenal, and sometimes it can give a really nice little effect. One thing that I will note though is that this can be very interesting in dark mode, because if you put a drop shadow that is black in a dark mode environment, it's not going to be seen at all. But if you use a little bit of a contextual shadow, you can see a little bit of the glow, almost as if the item that you're designing is a digital screen. And so when you see digital screens in a dark environment, it tends to glow a little bit, and maybe that's the effect that you're looking for. All right, so we're gonna make the style name here call tabs menu container. We can even move that before the tabs if you want to, but if you do that, then you're gonna have to take care of the Z index. Remember, we used to have a 5 Z index for the menu items. Well, we're gonna have to select tabs menu container and then put for the Z index to, let's say, 4. And now that's how you control the planes. I just need to make a little fix to the padding for my tab links. I'm going to select the second one because I don't want to change the current one. So I'm going to select the second tab link and set the padding right to 0. And now it should be centering properly. And then secondly, I want to set the font color to white instead, just like in the design that we have. Now let's preview the UI. I'm going to click on preview, and here if I switch, the menu is working properly. It's just that I need to populate the other images as well. So let's do that. I'm going to go to the tabs content and select the first tab. You can see that it has this item, but on the second one there's nothing, so I'm gonna have to add an image for each one. Select image, choose the image. For this one, it's going to be the iPhone 11. Write this one, and then select the third one, add an image, choose the galaxy. You're gonna have to search it and then find galaxy. Let's do one final. Image, choose. This time we can search for pixel, and voila. One final preview. We have our UI right here. Cool. So now we can publish this and then test the website. This is what we have so far, and I think we learned a great deal in this session about tabs, about the class priorities, about the Z index, about selection and the current style, as well as the drop shadow. So I really hope you're enjoying this course so far with all of these little tricks that I'm explaining in detail. And in the next one, we're going to learn about transitions and state so that we can have some animations going on. And we're going to apply some media queries as well for the phone. So I hope to see you in the next session.